Hello, and thank you for joining us for Hello Mayor. I'm City of Las Vegas Mayor Carolyn Goodman. Public safety is a priority for all of us here in the City of Las Vegas. We work to make sure our citizens are protected, and that includes putting as many resources as possible into the city's Department of Public Safety. I'm so pleased to be joined by our new City Department of Public Safety, Chief Louis Molina. Wow, are we lucky that you have joined us. What a wonderful, wonderful time this has been since you've been here. And I want everybody to know a little bit about your background. How many months, first of all, have you been with us in the city?
It's been 9 months, and it's been an amazing 9 months for me and my wife, Shannon. We love the city, and I love law enforcement and policing and working in the criminal justice system. So it's been a great opportunity to be here in Vegas.
So my biggest thing is, and of course being a mother and a grandmother, I love to know people's backgrounds. And so what got you into law enforcement? What are you from? Who are your parents? What are they doing?
So I grew up in Bronx, New York, which is one of the 5 boroughs in New York City. And I had a very, very fortunate childhood. I mean, we came from a very humble economic background, but I was very fortunate as a young child to have both my mom and my dad in my life. A lot of kids don't have that today. So that's really special. My father was in the Marine Corps and was a veteran. I ended up following my father in his footsteps and joined the Marine Corps in 1991.
Wow.
So it was great to sort of carry on that family tradition of public service, especially for our country as a veteran. And in addition to that, the Marine Corps provided me with the GI Bill. So I was able to use the GI Bill to go to college and get a college education. And making the decision at a young age to really want to continue public service, I felt that law enforcement was going to be the best way for me to do that.
How early on? Where were you in high school when you were thinking about that?
Yeah, towards the latter part of my high school years, going into the Marine Corps was a journey, a segue into a law enforcement opportunity later.
Were you in Camp Lejeune in New Jersey? Where were you?
So I went to boot camp in Paris Island.
Oh my.
So went to School of Infantry in Camp Geiger, which is right next door to Camp Lejeune. Went on to serve in Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii, the Marine Corps base in Hawaii. Did a short stint of sea duty on the USS Kitty Hawk.
Wow,
so I was very fortunate time and fond memories of when I was in the Marine Corps.
How many years was that?
4 years of active duty.
Okay, and then back home.
Well, I went to college. I stayed in Hawaii for like almost 10 years where I met my wife, Shannon.
Oh,
so I lived in Hawaii for almost about 10 years. Then after graduating from college and working a few good jobs, was waiting on a police department to call to work. And I was very fortunate to be able to go back home at that time to New York City, and I was hired by the NYPD.
Now you hear that. That is one big organization.
Yes.
And so where were you stationed? What were your duties? Were you just on the streets?
So I started out on patrol, like most officers start out in their career in uniform patrol, and I did that for a number of years. I had the opportunity to work in a number of the major bureaus within the NYPD. So I worked in the Internal Affairs Bureau, the Organized Crime Control Bureau. I did a short stint undercover in the Counterterrorism Bureau, and then I worked as an undercover in the Narcotics Division for a few years. So really saw just a varied mix of different types of policing and enforcement experiences in the NYPD, being that it's a very large organization. And then I learned about police management in the NYPD. I worked at the Office of Management Analysis and Planning for the Police Commissioner, so saw the business of policing, so to speak, which was a great opportunity.
And all the while you were stationed where? Or did they move you around?
So you get moved around. So I've worked at One Police Plaza, which is police headquarters. I've worked at PSA 5, which is where our housing police officers are stationed. I've worked in the 19th Precinct, which is in the Upper East Side of Manhattan.
Wow.
And as an undercover, I worked throughout the city in the Brooklyn, the Bronx, Manhattan. So just really a varied number of locations within the city.
And so then you proceeded on. Now I know where you came from directly. You were already in Westchester, which is outside of the heart of the city.
Yes.
What prompted that? And I think you were sort of a chief there.
Yes, so what happened was, so my journey after the NYPD, so the NYPD, I'm very fortunate, was able to retire from the NYPD. With the benefits of tuition assistance and scholarships. I got to advance my education while in the NYPD. So went to graduate school at Columbia University, got to study abroad at Cambridge. So just really unique opportunities. And then, eventually ended up also getting a scholarship to attend Harvard Business School's General Management program. So really a lot of great opportunities in my law enforcement journey. After the NYPD, I got recruited to work at NYU. And NYU was building, and had just finished completing building a campus in Saudi Island, which is between Dubai and Abu Dhabi. So I went there to help assist in operationalizing NYU's public safety apparatus in Abu Dhabi, which is a really unique experience.
My mouth is hanging open. I mean, I know I read your resume when you were one of the candidates, but I had no idea the depth of this. So it was New York University.
New York University,
and they
yeah.
had loaned you out to Dubai, or?
Yeah, so they opened up a campus. It was actually one of the major co-ed campuses in that part of the world, in that area of the Middle East. And it was an amazing opportunity to
How
just
long
work.
were you there?
I was there about a year and a half, a little short of a year and a half I was out there. And what that culminated to was in Brooklyn, New York, so going back to New York City, a new district attorney had been elected in Brooklyn, which is one of the largest prosecution bureaus within the city of New York. And they recruited me back to become the deputy chief there. So I went back to law enforcement, traditional law enforcement, and worked in the Brooklyn district attorney's office as their deputy chief.
Oh my,
Yeah.
I'm just, you could be lecturing. Do you have any time right now? I mean,
Sure.
you need to be out at our university, and how there's so much wealth of knowledge and experience in so many areas.
Sure. So, I love to mentor young people and the colleagues that are in law enforcement, or the young people that want a career in public service. So I'm always sharing my journey and mistakes that I've made, things that I've learned from. I've got to sort of observe and learn from a lot of amazing people that have been in this field and really have paved the road before me.
Do you have a philosophy? When you said you love young people, and obviously with this enormous background
Sure.
of learning, which were great opportunities, obviously, you satisfied everything. Is there a basic philosophy that you have? And then I want to find out
Sure.
what put us on the map.
Yeah, so I have a mentoring management style, and I've benefited a lot from mentorship of other people that took their time, whether it was for a moment in a simple engagement or others that I've had a long professional or personal relationship with, and really learning from others. So I feel that when a person has capability and they also are presented with opportunities, they have an obligation to sort of lead, whether that's in government or in the private sector, to really help others achieve the same levels of success or even greater success than they have had.
Therefore, you are writing a book. That's next.
Maybe one day.
Please. No. With the computer, so easy, really so easy. You need to do it in your boring free time. So how did Las Vegas get on the map?
So
had you ever been here?
Yes, so Las Vegas has a very special place for me and my wife Shannon. I mean, we got married here over 20 years ago.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Yeah. So my wife and I, we met in Honolulu, Hawaii. We got engaged in Honolulu, Hawaii, and her family's from Honolulu, Hawaii. My family was from New York. She had other family in Chicago. So we wanted an opportunity where we can centrally bring everyone so that we can celebrate. So we sort of had this destination wedding, and that wedding was in Las Vegas. And for 20 years, it was a tradition. My father-in-law is from the Santa Barbara area. So we would go to Las Vegas twice a year, either for my father-in-law's birthday or for other family and friends, to meet other family and
Right
friends.
here to our city.
Yes, we did. We loved it. So, in talking with my spouse and I, when we thought about our years when we would retire, we always figured we would go back to Las Vegas and retire. So when the opportunity presented itself,
Wait. The opportunity. Here you are. You're back in New York.
Yes.
And how'd you hear about it? I mean, are you up on the computer all the time looking? Oh, you were.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm up on what's going on around the policing world and the law enforcement world throughout our country. And the city of Las Vegas, the 25th largest city in America, so there's a lot going on in Las Vegas. So Las Vegas was always on my radar. And I saw that Las Vegas was recruiting for a chief. So I talked about it with my wife, and I said, I know we've always talked about moving and retiring there, but they're looking for a chief, and I could throw my name in the hat and we can kind of see where things add up. Well, one thing led to another. I went through the interview process, met the amazing leadership team here in the city, and then I was hooked, my family and I.
Well, I can't tell you how exciting it was to hear that you did see our request for proposal of people who would want to take this on. We had a wonderful former police chief, and so filling those shoes was something very important to us because, you know, and I'm a firm believer, without safety you have nothing. You have no community if you're not safe. You're not going to have people invest. So at that point, the big move, now it's been 9 months.
Yes.
What, if you can encapsulate, what have you been basically doing as you're meeting personnel? And then I want to find out all the areas. How have you been spending these 9 months?
So the initial time that I was here, I always felt that the people that are closest to problems and issues a lot of times have a lot of the solutions. So for us in public safety, that's our marshals, our correction officers, our officers that work in animal control. So I spent a lot of time on a listening tour with the staff to kind of get a sense is where are opportunities where we see the department can sort of evolve and grow, and what should we be doing and how could we be doing it better. So had a lot of conversations not only with staff, especially with the POA. President Scott Edwards is the head of the union there. Sat with him, the president of the CEA, and they were very involved in really helping me to sort of shape what the future of DPS would look like. And you know, in my first 100 days, we delivered to you and this other city council members a lot of the accomplishments and how we were able to sort of advance a lot of low-hanging fruit for the Department of Public Safety that was able to enhance the delivery of public safety services to the residents of the city.
I'm just blown away. I hope those of you who are listening, I mean, when you hear your background and then you can feel the touch of humanity in you, that you're listening, you're learning. It's an example to everybody. Children, if you're listening, you're really going to learn a lot because I'm learning. All right, now tell me, the city law enforcement and corrections, what's the overall response? I know we have approximately 155 square miles.
Yes.
So do you ever, do our marshals or corrections ever venture beyond our borders, first of all?
It would be very rare if we do, and a lot of times our correctional officers may be transporting someone to a different jurisdiction. That would be the scenario in which we might leave the city's jurisdictional limits. But so we're a limited duty police force on the Marshal side.
Okay.
So on the Marshal side, we patrol our city's parks, our city facilities, which is our community centers, our pools, and our tourist corridor on Fremont Street, the Fremont Street experience from Main Street to Las Vegas Boulevard is where our primary mission focus is for our marshals, where we provide public safety patrols, we're engaging with the public. It's important for the public to know that our marshals are highly trained police officers. They just work for the city of Las Vegas.
So they have, in addition to our training, they have training from law enforcement through Metro?
Well, they go to a traditional academy. We use the Southern Regional Desert Academy, Southern Desert Regional Academy, which is used by us. North Las Vegas sends its police recruits there, as well as UNLV sends its officers there as well. So it's a traditional police academy that they go to. They actually don't go to Metro's academy. But Metro does provide some advanced training for us. For example, recently Metro invited us to attend DUI training, which is an issue for the city.
What is UI?
Driving under the influence training.
Okay.
So that if we have people that are driving under the influence, drunk drivers, our officers are trained to conduct those car stops and make those arrests.
And so they are out there, they have the ability to arrest. Of course, we have our own detention facilities.
Yes.
Do we get incarceration from other jurisdictions?
So absolutely. So in addition to Metro and our own city marshals who bring persons that were arrested to the city's jail that were arrested for misdemeanor crimes, there are probably over 20 other different law enforcement jurisdictions that can bring people to the city's detention facility.
So what, beyond the law enforcement that goes on, and of course what we have in corrections, how are you involved with our homeless situation, for instance? Is that all part of your jurisdiction as well?
Yeah, so we work, within the city, we work very closely with the Department of Community Services, which is really a strategic partner for us. And what we do is we partner with them in what's called our MORE team, our multi-outreach team. and it's made up of marshals, nonprofit providers, and they go out there and they do a lot of engagement with those that are experiencing housing insecurity. So that's one way that we engage with the homeless that are on the street homeless. There is a good percentage of individuals that come into the detention center that are also experiencing housing insecurity. So we work with nonprofit providers, we work with the Southern Nevada Health District to make sure that we're able to provide some level of continuous services for those individuals so that they can address their housing needs upon release.
Now, you're providing how many, in the marshal details, how many marshals, law enforcement officials do you have overall? What is your total responsibility?
So as far as staffing?
Yes.
Yeah, so on the marshal side, we have over 80 marshals, deputy city marshals. With that, we also have deputy city marshals that are at the rank of sergeant.
Okay.
We have lieutenants that are patrol commanders that manage the sergeants and the officers. And then we have a deputy chief that oversees the field services division, which is the marshals.
Okay, and then you have everybody in detention. That's all on you have this one budget.
Yeah, so the correction officers are actually the largest business unit of the Department of Public Safety. We have over on the officer side over 170 officers right now to manage the facility that can probably house at its maximum capacity probably about 1,000 individuals.
And so you are working and responsible, though, 24/7.
Yeah, absolutely.
This isn't a part-time job
No.
that you can stop monitoring the streets or the entire, out in the suburbs, which we call certainly more to the west and northwest and
Yes.
central part on the north central. East, we're pretty landlocked, as I recall. So you're out there on patrol in cars, on motorcycles, on foot, what?
Sure, so we patrol on foot. If it's our city facilities like parks and our Fremont Street experience, we patrol on foot. We do have sector cars, so our marshals do patrol in marked police vehicles, as well as we have bike patrol. We did have enduro motorcycles where we would use to sort of patrol our trails.
Right.
We even have a drone on occasion that we might deploy in order for special events to do some surveillance and monitoring. So we have all of the tools within law enforcement that we can use to provide public safety services. We have all those tools.
And the Fremont Street experience, which of course were flooded in the Arts District on Main Street and all in the heart of where our hotels are and entertainment. Do you put the largest amount of marshals there throughout the week at nighttime, or do you concentrate on the weekends and holidays? What do you do?
Sure, so we try to evenly spread it around because we do have a lot of area to cover with our parks and city facilities, and Fremont Street also being a very important place that we want to make sure is safe for our tourists and visitors that are visiting. But we monitor Fremont Street primarily from 4 p.m. till about 2 a.m. now. And next year, we're expanding those hours from 6 p.m. to all the way to 4 a.m. in the morning that we'll be monitoring Fremont Street.
So is the city budget giving you more funds so you can have more marshals?
Yeah, so you and the city council have been very sort of supportive of giving us the opportunity to hire more marshals so that we can sort of address the demands of our city, whether that's dealing with those that are experiencing housing insecurity, crime, making sure that the Fremont Street experience is safe, that we can increase our presence in our parks. So we do have 7 recruits in the academy right now.
Wow.
3 recruits who graduated the last academy, and then we're looking to hire another about 10 recruits in our next academy that's going to start in January.
So how do you go about choosing, how do you advertise to recruit? Are you down in the high schools, or are you out just in public at meetings? Are you holding big sessions to welcome those? What are you doing to promote? This is a very, I'm telling you, this is really ridiculous. This is a very challenging time to get people to go into law enforcement because of all the pushback, whether it was warranted, not warranted. That's not the issue. It's a very challenging time. What are you doing to combat that?
So, hats off to the city's Human Resources Department. They have been a great partner with us, so they often schedule us to do career fairs and career days. So we're speaking to young people about the opportunity to become either a deputy city marshal, a correction officer, or even an animal control officer. In addition to that, we just recently had an open house with Human Resources where we had individuals come on a weekend to understand what the physical agility requirements are, what the vetting and hiring process is, which is very rigorous, as you said. It's a very detailed background investigation process. You go through a polygraph, you sit with a psychologist, and there's a lot of psychological testing. So the competition is very, very tough. But I could tell you I've done this for over 20 years, and there's no career. I mean, it's a career that I love, and I share with people in our recruitment process that it's a career where you get to get paid to really bring out the best and support the community that you love.
Well, I've seen your marshals so often out and about with homeless, and so courteous and so gentle and so kind, regardless if they have drug alcohol problems, regardless if they have mental health issues, or if they're just preferring to stay there and try with a more team or just on their own. How successful do you think that's been in comparison to where you've been?
So I would say I think the team is pretty successful. I mean, the city goes through a lot of care working strategically with our nonprofit providers to try to convince individuals that are largely dealing with mental health issues to be able to accept and supportive services so that they can come out from living on the street and making sure that they have sort of a safe haven where they can go to lay their head at night and to really help them sort of recover and be a real productive member of society for whatever that may look like for them.
Well, I know about, I'm going to go back maybe 3, 4, 5 years. I know we've been discussing through my tenure about how we're not really able to get people to come in, even though we have such supportive and wonderful social service partners. And why weren't they coming in? Well, we realized, of course, that many of them do have substance abuse problems. So with our courtyard, which we set up to be a model to be replicated around not only here, but maybe the country, this low barrier place where we have security. Do our marshals participate in the courtyard?
So our marshals frequent the courtyard. So one of the things that we did was we developed a sector around the Corridor of Hope. So our marshals regularly are visiting and checking in on not only the courtyard, but the recuperative care center, as well as Woodlawn Cemetery. So that whole area around where the courtyard is located is regularly patrolled 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
24/7. I mean, that is simply incredible. You mentioned too our animal control.
Yes.
How many people and how many hours of the day are they out there, and what are they doing?
Yeah, so we have animal control officers, that is, they work 24 hours as well, right, our animal control. They're available if we have an issue with animals. We have about a dozen officers that work there. We're also recruiting for animal control officers as well. So those that are interested in the field working with pets or with animals, I would encourage you to check the city's website for that. But I'll tell you, they deal with everything from an injured animal or pet that may be on the street to a mountain lion gets thirsty and they're having water in somebody's pool. Right, so
but also somebody's let a snake out of their private little cage or whatever. So you have to love animals, and you have to love all kinds of animals. But it's a wonderful program with great personnel. How does one apply? Do you have any internships?
Yeah, so we didn't have any internships during the COVID, so we're working now, working with our city council people. If they have young people that are interested in interning, we're open to doing that. We're also restarting our Explorers program for young people that are high school kids.
Which is our Explorer program.
Our Explorers they're sort of kind of like interns. It's a sort of an after-school weekend program that we're developing for young people that may want a career in law enforcement, but so they get to come in and learn about primarily our marshals. They'll interact with our correction officers, and they'll just learn about sort of the everyday life of being a law enforcement officer.
What age do you have to be to get, and how do you apply?
Sure, so we're going through the recruitment process now to define the ages. We're hoping to go as young as 14 if possible, which is a young age, and it can, as you could be a freshman or a sophomore in college and possibly be part of the Explorers. So we're redefining that now, and we'll be releasing something soon in the public.
Okay, so that's something really to watch for, which I wanted to find out also. what is the process from the Marshals' viewpoint, your viewpoint, for juveniles that are getting into situations here and they're in the city, and what's the process there?
Yeah, so fortunately, we engage with a lot of young people all the time, and our marshals are just very engaging with the community, and that means engaging with a lot of young people as well. So fortunately, it's very limited where we will find ourselves in a situation where we're in a situation where we're managing a situation with a young child or a young adult, for that matter. So that's a good thing. But there are a lot of resources from community services to engage with young people. So our marshals have a lot of information if a young person is going through a trying situation, where they can help them and get some support for that.
Well, and I know you know from New York, and having grown up there myself, a lot of young people, when they hit those middle school years and beyond, right there in adolescence, your parents know nothing. You know everything, and your parents aren't listening to you. So for some, and it's wrong, but they run away. And they want to go to some place where they're going to be anonymous. So whoopee, Las Vegas, here they come. And so knowing we do have, unfortunately, too many that are targets of those who want to take advantage of them and traffic them. Would all those cases, when a marshal comes upon a youngster, a boy or a girl who's run away, they may assume, maybe not, are we able to handle that too? Or do we just refer over to juvie or to Metro? What do we do with those?
So we don't engage. Our marshals don't. That doesn't happen a lot with our marshals, thankfully. But we do have referral organizations, whether they be nonprofits or agencies that work for the county, that can assist young people that are going through some challenge or trauma like that, that they can assist them with. And our young people have been through a tough time over the last 2 years almost, right? With battling COVID, an economic crisis from shutdowns that saw their parents unemployed and struggling, schools shut down. They've been through a lot, our young people, as of late, right? So anything that we can do to engage with young people to really give them support is something that we advocate strongly in the Marshals.
Well, and I would say, I know from my perspective and from our council's point of view, we're here. It has been an unbearable time. And the pressures on adults, sadly, they take it out on each other. And also they may take it out on their children or their combined family, children, and so we're here. It's very important to know that. But since we're on a very significant piece of the compassion that you have as a human being, and obviously it just comes out so clear. Talking about the issues that have been going on a year ago, that great strides are being made in the racial challenges. I think our city was remarkably cohesive in dealing with the tensions. So as you go out, one, to recruit, and two, to train, how significant is, and to me, you know, we aren't just one group of people. That's the beauty of Las Vegas, and I always talk to the family. Being a family, we're all together. Be proud of who you are and appreciate your difference because you're unique. But what are we doing in your training, in your recruitment? But hopefully you don't cut any standards, because I remember about 3 years ago, we really were making an effort to bring in women. And I remember saying to some of the marshals that I happened to be with again and again, I said, each marshal, if you're running two in a car and something happens of a criminal nature, each of you is responsible to help take care of the other one. So if I were a man with a woman who couldn't run as fast as I do, keep up to me, lift everything, my life is now in more jeopardy. Not right.
Yeah, so I could tell you that we have not lessened our standards. If anything, the standards for what our recruits have to go through in getting certified as Category 1 police officers has only gotten higher. We have, our biggest strength is our diversity, both gender diversity as well as ethnic diversity within the department. This is an international city, so not everybody here is an English speaker. So we have officers that speak Spanish fluently, they speak Russian fluently, they speak Thai, they speak Tagalog. So multilinguistic workforce. And what's amazing is that, one of my messages to our officers is, you're entering a great profession, and there's things about you that are going to evolve and change as you become a professional police officer, correction officer. But never forget who you was as a person, right? Keep your family traditions, learn from your journey, because when other young people that come from other areas of our city that are challenging, whether they be minority children or first-time Americans, if they can see someone that looks like them and experience a very similar life journey as them, that's a powerful thing when you're trying to deliver public safety services. I mean, at the end of the day, our marshals and our correction officers, because they interact so much with the public, they are the face of government. And people go to them in their best of times and in their worst of times.
So, but our marshals are out there interfacing all the time
Yes.
with our community. Yes?
Yes, absolutely.
And do you encourage them to pick up the basketball or sit down or read a book with a child or children, whatever?
All the time. So our marshals, you may see our marshals in a park riding a skateboard with other kids that have their skateboards on them, showing them tricks that they might know. We have marshals that are athletic and can play a little bit of soccer, so we might have them engaging with young people playing soccer. We have a mascot, the Eagle of Justice, so at community council events, we'll bring out the Eagle of Justice to take pictures with children, and we'll give them, trinkets from the Department of Public Safety so that they can see us as mentors and supporters of their community.
Well, and it is true, because heaven forbid, and you've had a family and been married, and then you have a very unattractive divorce. The pain for the children is worse than for anybody. And so how to best go through that process, I'm sure many in law enforcement, women and men, find themselves. So do we have counseling help to help our officers get through that process too?
Absolutely. So organizational health is really important for our department, as it is with the other departments in the city. We have employee assistance programs that are led by Human Resources.
Good.
We do a lot of engagement with our officers in the area of wellness, and we'll be thinking of some new things, working with organizational training and development to sort of increase the level of resiliency for our officers. So that's an important part of it too, because our officers experience compassion fatigue, right? They're always there to help people in their most neediest. So we got to make sure that they're resilient to handle that.
Well, and they have to learn too, because you're supposed to be the next thing to heaven, you who are taking care of us, but you have your own needs. And so to teach your officers, you need to say, I need to reach out for help.
Absolutely.
That's very, very important.
And our officers come from the community, right? So they're facing the same challenges that every other parent is facing with their own children, their own challenges in their own relationships. So it's understanding to be sensitive to their needs as well.
Right. I'm so grateful for this. One last piece here before, and I don't think I have time. I have to have you back because I want to hear the plans for the future.
Sure.
Your relationship with our faith leaders, how important are they to everything with our social service partners as well, our faith leaders?
Yeah, so was it really important for us? We really started to really rebuild our relationship with not only our faith leaders, our community leaders, our nonprofit organizations, especially in the area in the detention center where we're providing a lot of programming for those that are incarcerated. Because we needed to build really a continuum of care for those that are leaving our facility so that they're being able to address a lot of their challenges. And the biggest, what I would say, navigators that we have in our community are our faith leaders. Like Hope for Prisoners and John Ponder and doing what he does to really help people get back to a place of really engaging back with their community. So it's immensely important.
They're so wonderful. This community is remarkable. It is a model for the rest of the country. Sure, we have flaws, and sure, we're always changing and trying to get better and build. But I can't tell you how important the law enforcement. In less than a minute, what do you think for your next year?
So what I'm excited about is we have done some demand-based scheduling changes, so you're going to see a lot more of our marshals in our city parks. We're going to be able to attend a lot more permanent events and community-oriented events where our marshals will be there, not only to provide public safety, but to engage more with the community. And we're looking to expand our programming and services within our jail facility so that we can address a lot of the things you pointed out: mental health, wellness, educational issues, and other vocational training for those that are incarcerated.
So how do they reach you and make their suggestions? What's an email to contact you if they have an idea?
Sure. So, I would say go to our city's website. That we have a method in place through our form stack system for people to email the Department of Public Safety. I get those emails routed to me and my staff, and we contact everybody that reaches out to us.
Yes, you certainly do. Well, I can't tell you how exciting it is for you to be here. You are a role model in yourself. And
Thank you.
I know you're up early in the morning making sure details in place and everything else. But some of you may not know the city of Las Vegas has its own jail. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to take a deeper look at the jail operations and how our corrections officers are working to help inmates step into a better future. You're the best.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. The city of Las Vegas does have its very own detention center located near the downtown area. If you are arrested in the city limits for a misdemeanor offense, you're taken to our facility. I'd like to welcome Deputy Chief Robert Straube, who runs the city jail operations. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, I've been dying, and I'm not allowed to do this, but I'm termed out in 3 years, so I'm going to ask you, how tall are you?
I'm 6'8".
So we have no size limitation
None.
as to our officers. How do you like that? 6'8", and lucky we're sitting down. So how exciting to have you here. Tell us a little bit. Were you born and raised in Las Vegas?
I was not. I was actually born in Seattle and raised in Eastern Washington on a small farming community on a farm. And, farming wasn't probably for myself or any of my siblings. And in about 2001, right after 9/11, I know that's upcoming, I decided, I wanted to serve my community. And my brother at the time was in the Deputy City Marshal Academy. And so he said, you need to come.
Here
Correct.
in Las Vegas?
Yeah, he's recently retired after 20 years. Officer Justin Winkleman, different last names,
Okay.
but he was a Deputy City Marshal for 20 years. And so he told me, you should come to Las Vegas, the opportunities and whatnot. And my girlfriend, who's now my current wife,
Not current, permanent wife.
Yes, former girlfriend, current wife, forever.
Very good.
Thank you.
Oh, my.
So I had an opportunity to come down, and because I had a brother here, I had a foundation, and I heard about the city of Las Vegas and the great opportunities. I had never been to Las Vegas. And so I had about a week or two to come on down to Las Vegas. We packed up a U-Haul truck. I drove in. I saw the Strip for the very first time.
And your brother nailed you to the floor so you couldn't run away.
And nailed me to the. He didn't have to.
Okay.
Once I arrived,
You knew.
my wife and I were sold.
Well, that's simply beautiful. How many siblings do you have?
So I have two brothers. I have a younger. So my older brother's now retired. I have a younger brother who actually works in the AMR ambulance. He's a paramedic, and I have a younger sister in the Seattle area that is a middle school counselor.
Wow, phenomenal. So how many years have you put in with us?
So this coming February will be 20. So I'm just over 19 years with the city.
My mouth again is hanging open. And so what division did you start in?
Sure. So I actually came through the Corrections Academy. I came through one of the largest academies that we've ever had in the department. There was approximately about 40 of us that went through the academy. Wow. So yeah, we definitely, my academy, there was just a lot of us, right? And so I had the opportunity through corrections to work in several specialized units. I was the first corrections officer to work in internal affairs. We have a big contingency of corrections officers in our department, a large representation. So it's good to have somebody in that position.
Okay,
to
for
help.
the dummies of this world,
Sure.
what is a corrections officer versus law enforcement marshal, or what other names? What
Sure.
is a
So
corrections
the deputy
officer?
city marshal definitely through the academy goes through a longer academy, 22 weeks compared to like a 12-week corrections academy. Where in the corrections academy you're learning your basic law enforcement skills. Where the deputy city marshal, they continue through the academy to learn more of your patrol stops, search and seizures, and things of that nature. So the corrections officer in the jail is responsible for the custody and care of the inmates. Therefore, we do not do our assignments are not out on the street like you would see the front-facing marshals.
So you, Chief, you would never consider moving people out of corrections. They'd have to go through more training?
Yeah, they'd have to go through more training. So the Nevada State Post Commission is the one that determines the level of training a Category 1 versus a Category 3 officer has, and a Category 3 officer is our correction officers. So their jurisdiction is limited largely to the detention facility. They do provide transportation of persons in our custody from the jail to Muni Court, for example. We also transport persons in custody to Ross and Nielsen that need further psychiatric care. So a correction officer does have the opportunity to become a marshal if he or she chooses, but it's a different track of assignment. So the marshals are in the PPA union, which is the same union as Metro, and our corrections officers and our corrections sergeants have their own union, which is the POA.
So your typical day is all spent entirely at the detention unit?
Correct, with the exception of our transport officers that will go around to different places, whether it be transporting to court, our other sister agencies like Clark County Detention Center, Henderson Police Department, North Las Vegas.
So you are moving detained peoples around
Definitely
the
we do.
southern Nevada. How many inmates do we have? I was going to say in totality. We only have one detention facility?
Yes.
Correct.
And how many can we take care of at once?
So our capacity is right around 1,000. Currently, we've averaged for almost last year around 500. You know, the pandemic, you know, a lot of that is kind of unseen. And in the jail, we've really had to adjust how we conduct our business. We've done an excellent job through the pandemic, having low rates under 1% of our residents contract the virus. And that's total.
Incredible. Wait, time out. How do you, what's responsible for that you've been able to keep it to a 1% level? That's incredible when you look at the detention facilities around the state where there are big issues.
So one of the biggest things, you know, with Chief Molina's assistance was looking at our facility layout and how to best optimize how we can social distance and just best operations to follow the CDC guidelines and whatnot. We are constantly cleaning from day one of the pandemic. We were on it. We have a vulnerable population, so we immediately got involved. I was actually promoted to deputy chief in July of 2020, so it was like, here you go. So,
Good idea.
so we definitely worked with, you know, our own emergency management people, and you know, again, on the best practices. What are the other jails doing, and nationally, what is happening? You know, what are the best practices? So, when somebody came into custody, we would keep certain groups together throughout their stay, test them, see if, you know, if there was positives, then we could just quarantine them. We wouldn't allow them to necessarily affect the rest of the population. We had kind of like an intake unit where they would stay past the 10 days. Once they didn't have any side effects or any symptoms, we would move them onto our general population unit.
I mean, that is a remarkable achievement. Now, are you able to house men and women separately?
So we exclusively house men and women separately. We have one female unit that is around 50 or so of our residents.
Only 50 of the potential 1,000.
Right now, 500.
Now, is this because of studies that have been taken that in this community, women don't seem to get in trouble as much as?
From a jail perspective, being in detention center for almost 20 years or around that, I definitely agree with that thought process. I also think that from a correction standpoint, women are definitely easier to manage in a jail setting. We don't have a lot of, overall in general, but especially in our women unit, they like to do the programming that we offer and seek out those services. So, it's very well managed, and we don't have a lot of concerns with it.
And what is the age span generally? You're more on the younger side, in their 20s or high teens?
I believe recently it's in the 30s, right in that range.
That's the largest. Do you ever get older people?
We do, absolutely.
Yeah, on occasion. I mean, I think it's also important to point out that many of, especially our women that are incarcerated with us, have experienced a lot of trauma. A lot of them experience a lot of things of domestic violence, physical and sexual abuse in their lives. So they really come with a lot of trauma when they're at the point of being really justice involved, in addition to dealing with mental health issues and drug addiction. So we target a lot of programming efforts, not only with our medical partner, NAVCare, but even our officers provide a lot of programming and services for our female population that is incarcerated. So that's an important piece of it as well.
It's an incredible thing when you think about life, and I think back to my own and my major in social studies, psychology, counseling. I think of drug, alcohol abuse. I mean, everything interfaces. But you think of this vulnerable population. What do you have offered as wraparound services that really can help? Like John Ponder, you mentioned that in the first section with Hope for Prisoners. These are prisoners who have had a felony, and so now they're coming back into society. We're trying to they do counseling, job readiness, everything else. And I think he told me is a 96% success rate, which is incredible, and been doing this over close to a decade, I'm sure. What kind of wraparound services are offered in our detention facilities?
Sure. So like Chief had mentioned, we work closely with our NAVCare, who's our medical provider for our residents. They have a discharge planner who provides services to a lot of our residents and connects them on the outside to services. So we do, there's a long list, but some of the bigger ones are like Alcohol Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. We're always looking at new programming, whether it's art therapy that we've explored. We're further exploring some additional therapy methods, whether it be yoga, could be things to do with animals, therapeutic items. We've expanded to, with the what you talked about with the drugs and things like that. We're currently doing a Narcan pilot program where we offer and train our residents, and once they go through the training, they'll be provided the Narcan upon when they leave. And if there's a medical emergency with someone they're with, they can actually provide that Narcan and possibly save a life.
So I'm thinking about the background the Chief has, and because of all those years, those experience, that education, there have to be things that you've learned during that time that we've never implemented, never had that wealth of knowledge. And then to double back, check the data, is it working still, or whatever you saw? So what did you put in there?
So I'd say, we have really become and shifted to being an evidence-based operational decision-making department when it comes to especially providing care to those that are in our custody.
Okay, evidence-based, what are you saying
So
to
like
me?
you said, the data. So we look at the data. We're big into experimentation to kind of see what works for our population. We have licensed clinical social workers that work for NAVCare that do group therapy. Some of our people that are in our custody need individual one-on-one engagement. We have a mental health director that's a licensed clinician. We train our officers to deal with this vulnerable population because their interactions with them is going to be different than someone who is a person of average means, let's say. So it's a full wraparound engagement. And then in order to bridge sort of these gaps when they get released, we started doing Medicaid applications for those that are in custody with the Southern Nevada Health District, so that an individual can have Medicaid approved upon release, so that we're eliminating the bureaucratic barriers from them being able to get services, whether they be physical health services or mental health services.
So I know how connected, I mean, the city staff and what we do in the city, because we're only responsible for the city, not the whole Southern Nevada area, has really been an opportune time for us to get in. You said, I mean, this is very creative, innovative ideas that we're trying to implement, but it does give us an opportunity through Washington, because we have representation there, to find out what is out there in funding to help you expand in this particular area that's effective and proven, and not just throwing the bodies in there and who cares.
Sure.
It's humanity.
Absolutely.
And so the involvement, now how the budget that we at the city provide you to take care of detention as well, as you look to the future of what you want to do in detention with these services. What are some of the other personnel or concepts you might have? I'm looking at it so much more preventatively to young people. As they come in and learn, what can we do so young people listen and learn and don't get themselves stuck in this?
Yeah, so I think, one of the things that you're starting to see in corrections around the country, and we're doing this more now, is to make the public aware of what the Department of Public Safety does, not only in our Marshals, but also in our detention center.
Right.
It's a learning opportunity for those that don't understand. The reality is that 99.9% of these individuals are going to go back to the community, and sending them back to the community broken doesn't aid public safety. So getting the community to understand what we're doing, getting them to have a level of compassion and welcoming to help those that are in need, that's what we can do. I mean, there are other funding streams, like you mentioned, in addition to the city's budget, but we work with applying for grants and other funding streams to support different programming that we have to aid that population.
How many can be in a cell? How many do you have in a cell for women, different than for men, or no?
So I would say that really depends on the individual, right? So people are classified in varying levels, dealing with mental health, sometimes looking at their criminogenic factors of how have they been incarcerated a long time. So generally we have those that are in one-person cells because of specific medical issues or mental health issues, and sometimes we could have 3 or 4 people that cohabitate in a cell together.
And what's the average length of stay, or is that all part of the court system? Are all these people in detention because of the courts?
Well, that's part of it. I mean, initially, so we have a percentage of individuals that are there because they just got arrested, and their length of stay on average could be about 72 hours or three days, depending on the court process and all of that. Then we have those that are sentenced because they've either been found guilty or been convicted of being guilty of whatever crime they committed. And on average, their stay is about 17 to 19 days.
And is that through the district courts or only from Muni Court?
The majority through Muni Court.
Correct.
Through Muni Court. And I know back some time ago, and I didn't even know if it was something we could do legally, but to make sure that everything was calm in the cells, I'd asked our city manager to explore with our chief putting cameras.
Yes.
Are we doing that? Have we done that? And if we haven't?
Yeah. So we have cameras throughout the facility, hundreds.
Good.
We're expanding the number of cameras that we do have in the facility, in our intake areas and in our special medical wards, especially those that are experiencing mental health. We have cameras in all of their cells and facilities. So the facility is monitored by camera 24/7, days a week.
So, and at the most, right now, how many are in the detention facility?
Approximately about 500.
About 500. And with the stay up to, what'd you say, 17 days?
Yeah, so our sentence population, people that get found guilty or plead guilty to a crime, on average, they're there about 17, 19 days right now.
Okay, and you're working in rehab. Tell me about, walk me through a day. Take me to detention somehow. I am now in detention, but I'd rather be a male at this point. So what's my typical day when you assume I don't have issues that you have to put me in solitary anywhere? What's my day?
Sure. So
Well, first of all,
yeah.
I know we have pictures, but the typical cell looks like simplistic, worse than a dorm room. No, a little bit.
or better.
Okay.
Yeah. So definitely. Our residents start off the day with, the first thing starts with a meal. It's
Brought to them, or do you take everybody from cell to cell into
we used to
someplace?
at the beginning, kind of the history of the detention center. We used to go to a main culinary area. We
Oh.
would walk everybody there. We do have our food provider pre-make the meals, and we take them to our units. So it starts off with
Okay.
breakfast, which is really early, like 4:35 a.m.
And if I'm diabetic, you know that I can't eat whatever.
Yes,
Okay.
it's
All right.
already pre-put in the
Okay.
system, and we
And do we get our food from 3 Square?
No, we do not. So we have a contract provider, Trinity, who provides all of our
Okay.
meals, because we provide meals not only for the people that are in custody, but they also do our employee dining as well.
And have you eaten their food?
I have.
Have you eaten it?
20
And
years.
you're both smiling.
Yeah.
And for 20 years. All right. We've gotten through breakfast. Now what?
So after breakfast, there's time to clean up. Again, we have our COVID protocols, right? So
Right.
so we make sure we go through those before we actually open up into our free time.
And do we, the inmate, help clean up, I hope?
Absolutely.
Good.
Everybody
Okay.
contributes to this.
Thank you.
It's-
Okay,
it's
so
a team
then,
effort for sure.
so this is clean up, make your bed.
Yes. So we will start during the week, for example, we'll start to get everybody ready for courts. Some days are bigger than others. People that we transfer to a part in our facility where they actually do video court.
Okay.
So we do a lot of that. Again, they come out for free time. During the free time, they can watch TV. They can participate in different activities. It could be ping pong. It could be different types of games that we have for them. They also have opportunity to use the phones that we have. We just upgraded our system. We now allow video visitation, which is a really big deal. And that's kind of the future of corrections, allowing someone not to have to wait for a certain day to visit a loved one. We allow them to be able to get on when they schedule it and visit their loved one and have that opportunity. So during free time, they have that. And then our medical provider, NAF Care, comes in, and again, we start our programming. We make sure they have the medications they need.
And do you make sure that they swallow it?
We do.
Okay.
We do.
Because I remember cooking for my children for breakfast, and some of the turnaround spit it out.
We do.
So I just want to make sure the pills
Our
get in.
officers are great
Okay.
at open your mouth, tongue
Been
up
there,
and
done
down,
that.
make sure
Okay.
nothing's being cheat is what we call
Okay.
it.
Okay.
So
And
yeah.
then the afternoon becomes what? Because I'm running out of time.
Sure. So the afternoon, again, it kind of mimics the morning a little bit. There's more free time. Again, there's more programming depending on the day.
And
type of day.
counseling to help them,
Absolutely.
and one-on-one so they can talk.
Yes.
And lunch and dinner in there, and then about 10 o'clock we shut it down and we start again about 4-ish in the morning.
Okay, well, we thank you for all your work in the community. I also want to invite you all to subscribe to our monthly newsletter, where you can have access to this show directly to your inbox. Just point your camera phone over that QR code on your screen and follow the prompts to subscribe. Thank you at home for watching. We'll see you next time for another episode of Hello, Mayor.